On Wednesdays, we bring you a business segment. We call this segment Balogun and Broad. If you earn a living, you probably own a business, work for one, or want to start one. Business is central to your life. But do most business shows really speak to you?
Today on the show, the billion-dollar valuation of
Balogun and Broad does. Let's talk about the stock market and Alaba market. Let's talk about share IPOs and diesel supply LPOs. Let's talk about Broad Street.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange recorded an all-time high of...
And Balogun Street.
The maximum I was spent on fuel to and fro was 4,000.
On Balogun and Broad, Wednesdays at 5. And we have on the show with us today a lawyer whose expertise is oil and gas. In fact, he's the head of energy, mining, and real estate teams for Odujinrin and Adefulu, where he is a partner. Before I introduce him, let me tell you that today we're going to be asking, how will the current PIB affect business in oil and gas? The petroleum industry bill has been in the news a lot lately. But most of the discussion has been about the political implications, right? But let's not forget that this bill is intended to regulate an economic activity, right? So it's important that in the back and forth, we don't forget to look at how this bill, if signed into law and implemented, will impact the oil and gas sector at all levels, upstream, midstream, downstream, all of that. And that brings me to our business hard fact. According to Statista, oil and gas contributed 9.25% of Nigeria's GDP in the first quarter of 2021. So for every 10 naira of value created in Nigeria between January and March of this year, about 1 naira came from oil and gas. So this bill is going to shape an industry that produces almost a tenth of Nigeria's wealth. So it's very necessary for us to look at the details of this bill and how it affects business. And like I said, we have a guest today to give us insight to that. His name is Adoye Adefulu. Welcome to Balogun and Broad on Hard Facts.
Hi, Sandra. Great to be here. Did you say Balogun and Broad?
Yes, that's what the name of the segment is.
That's an interesting name.
So for Balogun Street and Broad Street, all in Lagos.
That's smack bang in my area.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It is, isn't it? And Lagos, we want to hear from you as well. Let's have your questions for our guests. What do you want to know about how the PIB will affect the oil and gas business? Women, call us on 01465-7190. 01465-7190. Men, call us on 0700-993-993. First of all, the two chambers have harmonized a version of the bill which gives 3% of revenues as royalties to host communities. Now, I'm asking about this because host community relations are a critical part of upstream and downstream, the business operations. We saw South lawmakers walk out because of this 3%. If we assume that the host communities they represent will also dislike this position, how do we think this will affect community relations and in turn business operations?
Thanks, Sandra. Look, the issue around... First, can you hear me clearly?
Very clearly, yes.
Great. So the issue around host community and what belongs or what should rightfully go to the communities has been a pressing issue, certainly for the last, I would say, 20 years.
Right.
And the problem has been that most of the organizations that they've set up to carry out the community activities have been centralized. So you have them right at the federal level, and you have a multiplicity of these organizations. Sometimes, anecdotal evidence suggests that sometimes the Ministry of Niger Delta carries out something, and it's the NDDC that makes the claim for it, or both claim the same project. So the purpose of the provisions in this bill is to take away that centralization, i.e., that decision is not going to be taken at the federal level or by an institution created and that sits at the federal level, but it will be localized. Localized not just to the state, not to the local government, but really around the communities that are directly affected, either because oil is being produced from there or there's some impact around the way. Now, the percentage matters because obviously at the end of the day, it's the figure. How much am I going to be able to derive and use for developmental projects in my area? And really, the fact that we have to do this also speaks to the failure of government at all levels. Because if government had not failed, the nature of the infrastructure projects that would have been provided is the job of the government anyway. So the percentage matters. So there are not a number of people that have sort of thrown out figures as to what that 3% amounts to. I've heard figures of roughly about $400 million, given the nature of the industry spend. The operating expenditure that the industry has spent sort of over the last few years. So it matters on the global level, but you also have to look at it at a particular community level. So what does that mean for an oil producer within my own community? And how much of that is going to come to me? I think the important thing at the end of the day is the money is important, the percentage is important, but how that money is used is going to be really, really critical. And, it would be useful to see how the next sort of 1 to 2 years goes in terms of community development and the ability of communities to actually influence what they want to get done.
This bill creates 2 new agencies to regulate the sector: the Nigeria Upstream Regulatory Commission, or NURC, and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Now, any operator's ears will perk up when they hear that there's a new sheriff in town, right? So tell us, based on the powers given to these 2 bodies in the bill and based on the track record of how regulation has worked in the past, in what ways will this new arrangement improve or worsen the regulatory environment?
Okay. So thanks for that. What we've had primarily in the past in the oil and gas industry is we've had, DPR acting as the principal regulator, certainly covering the upstream.
Right.
And then you also have the PPPRA, which was focused only on price.
Right.
For downstream.
Right.
So that was it. And then you also have the PEF, etc. But right now, what is going to happen is the Upstream Regulatory Commission will be responsible for both the technical as well as any commercial regulation at the upstream level. And the Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority will be responsible for the technical and the commercial regulation of midstream and downstream. Now, over the years, the PIB has kind of moved from, we've had a situation where it was one regulator that they had proposed in different versions of the PIB. And then there were some versions that then proposed 2 regulators, some proposed 3 regulators. But the problem I think we've always had, not just in the industry, but in managing regulatory relationships, is that once a regulator has a mandate, rarely do you find them working hand in hand with other regulators in the industry. So what then happens is where 2 elephants are fighting, as it were, it's the grass that suffers. So the relationship, the regulated are always sort of caught in the middle of 2 major regulators. And that was an issue that was made with respect to this bill and why, there was a split. And in particular, matters certainly on the upstream side, because many of the things that you do, i.e. exploring the crude, and developing the crude and producing the crude, that's all on the upstream side. But once you start transporting the crude, once you start processing the crude, that goes to the midstream side.
Right.
So there is this kind of midway in between
Right.
where you have to deal, in some cases, with the upstream regulator as well as the midstream regulator.
Right.
I should say that the bill, they've tried to deal with some of these challenges. They've given the minister the power to direct both of them to settle on an issue.
Okay.
They've kind of ring-fenced particular projects that have upstream and midstream elements, and ring-fence that to be regulated by the
minister,
upstream regulator. Mm-hmm. So there are some solutions here, but those are not the only issues. And I know that you will lead to some questions around some of the other issues that come up, but so the structure of the regulatory relationship is certainly one issue that's going to be faced, but there are a number of issues that
will face as well. I wonder if you think, the separation of the NNPC as an operator from the regulator is one of these issues, because this bill appears to do that. It appears to separate the NNPC as an operator from the regulator. Now, some people welcome this. Some people welcome this, but others say that it's a fig leaf, and that as long as the Nigerian government owns an exploration company operating in the sector, the regulator's hand will not be impartial. I think you also alluded to that the last time that you were here on Hard Facts. But, what do you think of the general point?
So I think in summary, I think it's a good thing to have someone being responsible for the commercial parts and others being responsible for the upstream part, for the regulatory element. I think in reality, you will have this challenge, because at the end of the day, what you want to create, what I want as a player, as an operator in the sector, is I want a level playing field. I want to be able to go in and bid for an asset, and NNPC is bidding for the same asset. Mm-hmm. And I win on the merits of my bid, right? Mm-hmm. But what you have is this bill has taken away some of those elements of a level playing field. Mm-hmm. First, it has introduced a concept called supply of last resort, which suggests that NNPC will be regarded as it won't be a level playing field, certainly in the downstream sector. It will be regarded as the person that will play monopoly supply into the market for some time. Mm-hmm. I think it stretches for 6 months. So that's taken away. Another way in which the bill removes the level playing field is by suggesting that if you want a license as a concession in the upstream sector, you will have to have NNPC as a participant in your bid, and you will have to carry NNPC's costs for the exploration side, which is, essentially what you're saying is they're not my competitor. They have they have a level that is higher than mine, and the purpose principally of making NNPC a limited liability company, of making it taking it away from being a state corporation, is so that it's able to stand on its own 2 feet and compete with the companies that already exist in that place. Which means that at the end of the day, the government and the people of Nigeria will get the best. So we will not carry any inefficiencies of NNPC. But this bill, as drafted, as finalized and passed by both houses of the National Assembly, suggests he has removed the level playing field in many respects, and I think that that's a problem. And I think that if you look at the way in which reform has been done in other jurisdictions, that level playing field was brought in to make sure that there could be competition. there is no need to protect NNPC given already the many advantages that it has. But the bill.
Lagos, if you just tuned into the show, you're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. How will the current PIB affect business in oil and gas? This is the part where you call in with your questions for our guest. We have a lawyer whose expertise is oil and gas. He's the head of energy, mining and real estate teams for Odujinring and Adefulu, where he is also a partner. His name is Adeoye Adefulu. That's the person's voice you just heard, helping us make sense of the details of this bill and how it affects business. Because like I said to you, oil and gas contributed 9.25% of Nigeria's GDP in the first quarter of 2021. So Lagos, let's hear your thoughts. 0700-993-993-993. For men, 0700-993-993-993. For women, 001-465-7190. There's certainly WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 080-959-75 805. This is Hard Facts business segment. It's a business show for you. And on this show, on Balogun and Broad, we talk about the issues in the news that affect businesses of all sizes and the people who work for these businesses. 99.3. Hello. 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 All right. I guess we don't have a call there. 99.3. Sorry about that. Call back if you can. 99.3. Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I'm calling if you are not taking the call. All right.
Well, I've picked the call now.
Okay, please, I just want to contribute to the program.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. This concerning the kind of what people are discussing, celebrating on. But I think all those fast people, I think they are trying to impose their words to government, but government are not responding to them.
Okay.
At least government is supposed to increase their tariff at least 5% what they are requesting.
Okay.
Why is it that government are not coming up at least to tackle their issues in terms of oil pollution to their land?
Okay.
At least government is supposed to look into the matter critically because it's a matter that is something that area. And because of lack of the resources, lack of funds, those that are kind of complaining.
Okay.
So each people should put them out to the government. So they come up with something tangible for those areas. So they will stop complaining.
Okay. All right. So government should increase the royalties to the host community to 5% so that people in the South will stop complaining. All right. Thank you very much for calling to share that with us. 99.3. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for calling. What's your name?
This is Vincent.
Vincent. Welcome.
Yeah. So there's something I need to complain about your program. I've been calling since morning. In fact, I'm always tuned to your station, only. But I've been calling since morning. You people are not picking my call.
We don't choose who we pick their call. The calls are picked randomly. The way you're calling, that's the way 2 million people are calling. 2 million people listen to Nigeria Info. So all of them are calling at the same time.
Okay.
Sorry, Victor. But Adeoye, let me come back to a point that you made earlier on about supplier of last resort. Tell me about that. Explain what a supplier of last resort is.
Okay, so I don't know. I mean, many people outside the industry might not know this. But over the last at least 2 years, what you have is NNPC has been the only person importing petroleum products into the country. Mm-hmm. And the reason is simple. The other petroleum producers, the other petroleum importers, they won't import into Nigeria because the price of petroleum products, in particular, let me take that back. It has been the only one importing PMS, which is the fuel you use in your car, into the country. Mm-hmm. And the other products are deregulated. So diesel is deregulated. So there are other people importing. Kerosene is deregulated. Aviation fuel is deregulated. So there are other people importing. But PMS is not fully deregulated in spite of many things they've told us. The regulations that they issued last year, which said that it was, it's going to be full market price. But the truth of the matter is the landing cost doesn't reflect the price that we are selling in the market.
Right.
And the reason others are not going to import products is because they cannot sell at an economic price.
Right. And
the subsidy regime is dead. So, for many years, the government was owing petroleum importers subsidy. It's no longer doing the subsidy regime. So what it has done is that whatever money NNPC is making in the upstream side, i.e. selling your product, selling the crude, whatever money you're making on that side, it is going to catch all the losses that is making for selling PMS at a discounted rate. It's going to take it off that. So what you have is a situation that NNPC is the only importer of petroleum products into the country. What that means is that any inefficiency associated with NNPC, the costs that NNPC would typically bear, the fact that it may not be getting the price at the best price in the international market, all those inefficiencies are passed on ultimately to us because the money where it's been drawn out of, where the losses are being drawn out of, is the money that we make upstream, which is then passed on to the federal government, into the federation account, which is used by divided between the federal government, the state governments, and the local government, and is used for building our roads, our infrastructure, for supporting the state, etc. Well, that money is being reduced, which is why you hear and you've heard recently that the FAC allowance has, it's been reduced significantly. There's no money to share. There's no money to share because we are subsidizing through this under-recovery and over-recovery scheme. And so that's exactly what the supply of last resort is. The supply of last resort is that person that would always make products available, whether it is at a commercial rate or not. That is the supply of last resort. And it goes against the grain of the petroleum industry bill, which says that NNPC Limited is going to be a commercial entity and will operate on an economic basis. So this is totally antithetical to that idea. And you get to see some of these juxtapositions in the bill. You see them knocking their heads because one provision seems
to contradict another one. That's Lagos, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll switch gears and go further downstream, right? Talk about refining and petrol imports. We've got Adeoye Adefulu here with us, a lawyer in the oil and gas sector, breaking down the impact on business as far as the petroleum industry bill as passed by the Nigerian National Assembly is concerned. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, Lagos. Stay right here.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Morning after morning, cup after cup. Start strong, finish strong. With the stimulating aroma and rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1. It all starts with a Nescafe.
Home. There's something about it. From the feeling of peace and serenity.
Bros. Why so deep? Home is anywhere the Airtel Home Broadband is. That's all.
Enjoy more data than before on Airtel Home Broadband. Get a router for 25,000 naira with up to 160 gigabyte and a MiFi for 12,000 naira with up to 55 gigabyte. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network. Everybody needs a little help every now and then. Sometimes it's sugar or salt or an extra hand to change a flat tire or a small loan. At Kuda Microfinance Bank, we believe that your bank should do more than just store your money. we want to do more for you. So when you use your Kuda account to pay bills, buy airtime, and make transfers regularly, we'll offer you an overdraft, which is a low-interest loan that you can take anytime you need it. No long talk, no collateral, no paperwork involved. Just download Kuda on the Play Store or the App Store, open a Kuda account, and use it regularly to qualify for Kuda overdraft. Kuda, free banking for you.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Morning after morning, cup after cup. Start strong, finish strong with the stimulating aroma and rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1. It all starts with a Nescafe.
Hello, good afternoon. How may I help you, please?
Yes, I would like to buy data to watch plenty videos. You know now, music, sports, in short, everything on YouTube.
What is your budget, sir?
As low as possible.
Well, how does 50 naira for an hour sound?
50 naira for 1 hour? Ha! Talk true!
Yes, with Glow YouTube plan, you can stream all your favorite YouTube videos for as low as 50 naira.
Hey, what do I do?
Simply dial *777# to get started.
Get the super affordable YouTube time-based plans from Glow and start feasting on your favorite YouTube videos for as low as 50 naira for 1 hour during the day and 50 naira for 5 hours at night. Dial *777#, select data, select social bundle, and select YouTube to choose the Glow YouTube plan that's just right for you.
Glow Unlimited. 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk.
If you earn a living, you probably own a business, work for one, or want to start one. Business is central to your life. But do most business shows really speak to you?
Today on the show, the $1 billion valuation of
Balogun and Broad does. Let's talk about the stock market and Alaba market. Let's talk about share IPOs and diesel supply LPOs. Let's talk about Broad Street.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange recorded an all-time high of...
And Balogun Street.
The maximum I was spent on fuel to and fro was 4,000.
On Balogun and Broad, Wednesdays at 5. It's 5:31. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili bringing you today's episode of Balogun and Broad. It's a business show for you. On this segment, we talk about the issues in the news and how they affect businesses of all sizes and also the people who work for these businesses. And today we're talking about the petroleum industry bill. How will the current bill, the PIB, affect business in oil and gas? On the show, helping us answer that question is a lawyer whose expertise is oil and gas. He is the head of the energy, mining, and real estate teams for Odujinri and Adefulu. He's also a partner there. His name is Adeoye Adefulu. Now, I said that we're going to switch gears from now until the end of the show and go further into the downstream sector, focusing on refining and petrol imports. We're hearing that the Senate inserted a clause that limits petrol imports to refinery license holders. Supporters of such a clause say that it will encourage investment in local refining. But opponents say that it will create a perverse incentive, because now local refiners will not have competitors in the form of imported petrol. What are the merits and demerits of each position here?
Sandra, you've asked me a very difficult question. In my view, let me just summarize by saying I don't think there are any merits to this.
Oh, okay.
So let's talk about the demerits.
Okay.
So look, when the purpose, the job of the government is to ensure that players are competitive, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a level playing ground. There is competition, and ultimately the reason for supporting competition is so that the end user will will succeed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will thrive. They'll get the best price for themselves in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason for supporting competition.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's look at this provision.
Mm.
The first thing is, right now, diesel is supplied into the market on a competitive basis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the pricing, if you look at the Statistics Bureau of Statistics, you look at the pricing of diesel by zone, right? There's no equalization for diesel, right? Which means that the pricing can be different from the price in Lagos can be different from the price in Sokoto.
Right.
But because of competition, because of the way in which competition has acted in that sector, if you look at a zonal approach to diesel prices in the country, you find that the prices are not too dissimilar because competition has allowed people to say, okay, I'm not going to make the maximum profit that I could make because I want to make sure that I get market, I capture bits of the market. So you look at the zonal prices, the price in the Northeast, the differential between the lowest priced area and the highest priced area is not significant. Now, if you go state by state, you might find some margin there. But what we've now come to is that even diesel that is fully deregulated, kerosene, aviation fuel that is fully deregulated, what this bill is saying is that only petroleum refiners can bring that in, right? And what that means, essentially, is that people, if you understand the refinery business or the value chain of the oil and gas industry, the best placed people to bring in petroleum products are not necessarily refiners. They don't necessarily have the best relationships. They don't have the best trading skills and the ability to secure the best prices. So you have a situation where, and another thing which they've added to that provision is that it's going to be done in accordance with how much you have refined over the last quarter. So essentially, the refinery which will remain unnamed, but we are all aware of, that is meant to come on stream either later this year or sometime next year, that refinery will produce more than enough for the Nigerian market. I hope I'm not losing you.
No. I'm right here. I'm right here. Go ahead.
So that refinery will produce more than enough for the Nigerian market. So you have some other small scale refineries, right? So the situation would be one person would have 90% or 90-something% of the right to import 90-something% of the petroleum products into the country. And the issues around competition are absolutely crazy. And the question is, do we truly need more refineries in Nigeria, given the state of play right now? So we have some small refineries at the moment, and we have the NNPC refineries, which are not working and are unlikely to work for the next, I don't know how many years. But you have this big player coming with a huge market. But what has essentially been done is that they protected that market, and nobody can compete with him for price. So if he says,
so to him,
whoever that person is, he or she,
because you be saying the player, now you say him. I'm like, okay.
The player, if he or she says, this is the price I'm going to sell it, well, competition, it's going to reduce competition, and it is, for me, it's antithetical to what a government should be doing. A government should not be creating an environment where a monopoly player or an oligopoly would be the dominant players in the market. In fact, what government should be doing is making sure that those kinds of things don't exist. And indeed, when you look at the bill, which is why some people use the term it's been smuggled in. But when you look at the bill, a number of the things that the bill says is again antithetical to this
to this particular
It has
provision.
robust-
So it makes
it
me
has-
it makes me wonder, why is government picking a winner? Why was this clause added if there are no merits? Surely the National Assembly did it to favor some interest. What interest do you think this is, or this was?
I can tell you the interest that it's not. It's not the Nigerian people. It is not the Nigerian people. The interest does not favor. And look, we have very many different schools of thought, many of which I disagree with.
Okay.
And they've adopted this policy, this backward integration policy.
Okay.
Remove the integration and call it a backward policy.
Okay.
They've had this backward integration policy for quite a bit in many other sectors. But the question I ask you, look, let's imagine that you need to build factories. You need to build, I don't know, for sake of the argument, you need to build a number of cement factories. It has advantages, or you need to build a number of sugar factories. It has advantages as well. But how many refineries can Nigeria build? How many refineries can Nigeria can the Nigerian market support? Even if you are building for the whole of West Africa, there is a limit to that. So the idea of keeping this in the hands of a few, it's just I can't find words that are strong enough to express my disgust at the provisions.
Last time you were here, we talked about how the bill gives the downstream regulator very broad powers to set prices or price bands. This is an issue that usually bothers investors and operators, and not just in oil and gas. We've seen the running dispute over tariffs in the power sector, for example. Now, we need a lot of investment in gas going forward. So what I want to know is, do these price fixing powers send a bad signal to potential investors?
Well, so let me first, I'm a purist in writing and in legislative drafting.
Okay.
And there's lots of drafting issues in relation to this bill that kind of lead to the confusion around pricing. So let's talk about price. So I will buy petroleum products for, I don't know, 168 naira per liter, for example. That's the price. That's the price of the product. But there are many, many things that I'm doing in order to get that get that petroleum product ultimately. So, for example, let's imagine that we are importing that petroleum product. We will import it and we will store it in a depot, right? You are going to pay something for the storage in that depot. What you're paying in typical economics, legal parlance, is a tariff. You're going to pay a tariff for that. It's not a price. When Nigeria was performing quite well, you had a situation where we had a network of pipelines, and you put that network of pipelines down,
right?
And it's that network of pipelines that would pass the petroleum products into the inland depots. Again, what you're paying for the pipelines is a tariff. You're paying the tariff for transportation of your petroleum products into the inland depots, and then you pay storage, etc., etc. So what the bill has done is to say the regulator has the power to regulate the price of depots, the price of pipelines, essentially the price of infrastructure. But that kind of leads to some confusion, because people are thinking, oh, are we talking about the price of the products? Or are we talking about the tariffs? So it does lead to some confusion, and that really is something that they could have fixed quite quickly. So it is regulating the tariffs along the value chain. And the reason it's doing that is simple. And this is when we go back to the monopoly and competition issues that we're talking about. If I have a pipeline that is passing through through from Lagos, say, to, I don't know, Ogun State, for example, the likelihood that you have more than one pipeline is remote, because it does not make economic sense to build more than one pipeline to that zone. So you build one, right? If that person has nothing regulating it, it can jack up its price and say, hey, I am the monopoly here. I'm going to price it at whatever price. And so the job of that tariff regulation is to regulate the ability of a monopoly player really to determine its own tariffs. It's to make sure, and what they do, and what the principle of it, and it's kind of similar to the principle in electricity pricing as well, electricity regulation. The principle of it is that we will develop a methodology that says this is how you price your product and price your tariff. And that methodology will take into account how much did it cost me to build this pipeline? How much of it was borrowed and at what interest rate? How much does it take for me to operate the pipeline on a daily basis and to maintain the pipeline, etc.? And given all those factors, how much profit should a reasonable company operating that sector, how much should that person take? And so what you find out is that the tariffs for company A will be different for company B, because when you take all those factors into account, they will have some differences. But the methodology ensures that you are not making outsized profits and taking advantage of a monopoly situation. I hope I've explained that clearly.
Well, yeah, you've done well enough, and I mean the reason I mentioned gas specifically is because it's pivotal for the power sector, right? We need heavy investment in gas infrastructure to stop flaring and to channel gas to the power plants. Now, the investors are thinking about whether they can make their money back, right? And they can only make their money either by selling the gas or by providing transport and distribution services to the person who is selling the gas. But if the gas prices are not in their hands, and if the gas prices are in the hands of a regulator who is answerable to politicians, doesn't that mean that they cannot fully rely on their business projections?
So the issue of gas is really, really sensitive. And you're right, when you look at issues like energy transition, you look at the fact that, in general, the world is trying to move away from fossil fuels or even move to cleaner fossil fuels. The advantages that gas presents is significant.
Right.
But there has been, for the last, I would say at least 15 years, maybe more than that, this argument from both sides. The argument from the government side, which in fairness to them, they've been consistent, is that, look, we cannot allow a fully deregulated gas market at this time because we do not have sufficient infrastructure to support a fully deregulated market. And that's the argument that the government has made. And that's the argument that has been lodged into this bill, where they've fixed the prices for petroleum products in accordance with the industry sector in which you're playing. On the production side, the argument from their side is very simple. Look, gas is not like petrol, or crude, where I can produce it, I can store it somewhere, and I can shift it whenever I am ready to shift it. With gas, from the beginning of the project to the end of the project, I need to know that this project is economically viable. I need to have the customers that will take the end product right from before I even start producing. So I find gas, and it gives me a headache immediately, because you've got to streamline the project. You've got to find your buyers. You've got to find your suppliers for your pipelines, etc., to develop the gas. You've got to enter into the contract. So the cost of developing gas projects is significant. And what they're saying is, look, given what that is, and given what we want as Nigeria, we really should be talking about, a clear willing buyer, willing seller market, and that would lead to the development of the industry. Well, now the PIB hasn't adopted that. They have put in place in the bill they put a kind of transition mechanism in the bill, which says when we reach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 factors, then we will move naturally. And that is certainly better than the situation where we had before, where we had really big factors, or indeed in some places didn't have we didn't have factors at all, which you'd be able to determine whether gas prices should move to a willing buyer, willing seller basis or not. So that's where we are.
So that's where we are. Now, I have to ask you my final question, and I'm sure that's the biggest question on the minds of a lot of the people who are listening to the show. As we wrap up, the oil exploration part, that's the other big business issue in the PIB. Specifically, we have this fund for exploration in frontier basins. But again, the question on my mind is, if these frontier basins had profitable oil reserves, or if the chance of finding such reserves were high, wouldn't private investors be ready to put their own funds into it? Wouldn't your door, Adeoye, be knocked down at the moment with, oil companies telling you, hey, drop some draft legal thing to, protect us while we go and put our money into this thing? Why would the government need to fund this exploration itself? After all, when oil was first found in Oloibiri, government did not have to bring a single pound for that project.
Yeah. I mean, so let me start by saying that I have some sympathy for government involvement in frontier exploration.
Okay.
And the reason is very simple. There are certain things that private sector will not get themselves involved in.
Oh no, Adeoye's network has crapped out, but hopefully it fixes up. I don't know if it's his or ours, but hopefully it fixes up and we can continue the conversation, because I want to hear his thoughts on that particular issue. Lagos, if you just tuned into the show, you're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info, and we've been talking to a partner at a law firm whose expertise is oil and gas. He's also the head of energy, mining, and real estate teams for Odujinri and Adefulu. He's back. He can hear us now. We've got about 2 minutes, and then we have to go. So, Adeoye, you were telling me that you have some sympathy for the government as far as exploring frontier basins are concerned. Yes?
Well, so let me caveat that. I have some sympathy for government taking a position to try to bring something to the market.
Right.
So sometimes some ventures are so costly or expensive for people to do that you need somebody to go ahead, spend money and spend resources, find whatever you are looking for. And once you do that, you unlock that area. So this is actually what I think government should ideally do. I don't think government should be spending its money on, areas that are that have been discovered, that all resources are there. You should go and unlock in areas that are more challenging, so that you give the opportunity. Once you unlock that area, it will bring private investment. So that, as a matter of philosophy. Now, having said that, do I think that frontier exploration should be our priority as a nation at the moment? I don't think so. I don't think so, because I do not know that what we have discovered, we will be able to produce them, sustainably over the short period of time that I think is the energy that energy sector has left. Perhaps I am overemphasizing this, but we've seen reports from International Energy Agency, for example, which says there should be no longer any investment into the oil and gas sector. It's not talking about exploration investment. It's saying
investment,
no
period.
No new investment into the oil and gas sector. So when you see things like this, even though obviously there is a challenge, given the fact that they represent sort of Western countries, but the money comes from there. The money comes from there. And so when the money for investment, I don't think will be made available to exploit our resources that we have already found free.
Okay.
So I think that's a problem.
And that's a great place to bring this to a close. Adeoye, I cannot thank you enough for your time. If I were a client, I'll be paying super dollars for this. So thank you for providing your services for free on Hard Facts. It was a great hour, and thank you so much.
Thanks. It was a pleasure to be here.
Lagos, that was Adeoye Adefulu. We will take a quick break, come back, and tell you how today went.
Everybody needs a little help every now and then. Sometimes it's sugar or salt, or an extra hand to change a flat tire, or a small loan. At Kuda Microfinance Bank, we believe that your bank should do more than just store your money. We want to do more for you. So when you use your Kuda accounts to pay bills, buy airtime and make transfers regularly, we'll offer you an overdraft, which is a low-interest loan that you can take anytime you need it. No long talk, no collateral, no paperwork involved. Just download Kuda on the Play Store or the App Store, open a Kuda account, and use it regularly to qualify for a Kuda overdraft. Kuda, free banking for you.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Morning after morning, cup after cup. Start strong, finish strong with the stimulating aroma and rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1. It all starts with a Nescafe.
For a healthy family.
Some people have that special phone number. Sometimes it's the first number you ever had, or that number that rhymes with your birthday, or the number that your first girlfriend, Titi, gifted you. Now, imagine having that number taken away from you and giving to someone else, all because your line was inactive.
Oh no.
Oh my, such painful stuff. But guess what? With Glow Always On, that won't happen, because for just 500 Naira, you stay connected to the Glow network even if your SIM is inactive. Now you can really rest easy and never worry about any of that, because Glow Always On will keep your phone number for you. Just dial *777# and select Always On to subscribe.
You don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Morning after morning, cup after cup. Start strong, finish strong with the stimulating aroma and rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1. It all starts with a Nescafe.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
Your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
You can listen again on our website, nigeriainfo.fm. If you missed my interview with lawyer and partner at Odujinring and Adefulu law firm, he is an oil and gas lawyer. He's even the head of the energy, mining, and real estate teams for Odujinring and Adefulu. And he was here with us from 5 p.m. talking to us about the petroleum industry bill and how the current version will affect business in oil and gas. Lagos, that's all the time I have. But you can find me on social media as Sandra Ezekwesili. Sandra Ezekwesili, that's how you'll find me. I'm back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, yes? And at 5 o'clock tomorrow, I'll have the PDP chairman here in Lagos on the show. I'll have Youth Party chairman also on the show with us. I've been reaching out to everybody on the APC, the chairman, the PRO, a few other stakeholders, and they've all been giving me the runaround. And I simply want them to come and talk to us about how they feel, what they think about the electronic transmission provision of the electoral bill. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully somebody turns up. We'll keep reaching out. If you have some pull, if you have some access, get one of them to show up on the show for us. Until tomorrow, I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, Lagos. Those were your hard facts. Good night.
You can have your number one radio with you wherever you go.
Wow, really?
Download our mobile app, search Nigeria Info FM on Google Play and Apple App Store. Your number one station for talk. 99.